We're getting to know a man whose career has been built about around really telling stories. First by sharing the stories of others, and now by creating stories of his own. Stephen Pierce is joining us with decades of experience as a journalist, communicator, storyteller, excuse me. His journey has taken him through his military service, through newsrooms, public relations, and now a new chapter as an author living right here in East Texas. I'm a big fan of books, so I'm excited to talk to you. But first, let's start off with the very beginning. Here, let me pull up his camera so you can see him too while we're talking. Here he is. Here he is, Stephen Pierce. What started you off in just enjoying stories?
Oh, it's just always been involved in writing. I was on the newspaper in my junior high school. I was
Really?
newspaper in high school. In fact, my first big story was about the lowering of speed bumps in the high school parking lot. And I found out at that point in time that when you quote a student, the council,
Student president?
the school board
Oh.
member, you can't quote them and make them look stupid, even if they did it all on their own.
Right,
So
right.
so that's my first introduction into journalism.
Oh gosh, what was that conversation like with your teacher?
The next day, because our newspaper, high school newspaper, actually came out in the local newspaper,
Oh wow.
so it was already out there. So that's when she explained to me that the publisher was actually the school board. And so we had to be aware of that.
That's tough when trying to teach about the First Amendment and how
Yes.
you're using your language. And my high school, we had the newspaper, and I was a part of it in my high school year, and it was an English teacher. So it was all reviewed by her. You got your paperback like it was an essay, and you were reviewed before it even was published. And we were published, I think, once a month, just because of funding. But still, coming out in the city paper, that's wild.
Yes, yeah. So start out with a circulation of about 10,000 as a high school journalist. That was pretty impressive.
Very impressive. That's a great way to put on your resume. So you got the bite for storytelling there. How did it evolve? Where did you go to school, and what was that first job like?
Well, the next step was when I joined the Air Force, they gave me three options of guaranteed job.
Oh,
I
wow.
could either guard airplanes, work on planes, or I could be a public affairs specialist, which did newspaper writing in the Air Force.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was a quick, easy decision on my part.
You're like, I'm a writer. I'm going to go that route.
That's right.
So what was that like?
It was great. I grew up in Iowa and Kansas, so they sent me. My first foreign country was Louisiana. I was stationed right over here at Shreveport at
Yes.
Barksdale Air Force Base, and my first day, I come in, a woman who had was attempted to jump off the Jimmy Davis Bridge, and one of the staff sergeants out there saved her life, and that was my first story, Air Force story, to be able to do.
And that was your first task.
First task to go out and do that.
How was that? That's a tough one to just jump right into it.
It made it seem like it was going to be really exciting.
Yes.
Then when you get the next story about, somebody lost their wallet and they found it and they turned it in, and that was supposed to be just as exciting as
That's your follow-up.
That's right.
Oh wow. So how do you make someone losing a wallet sound interesting?
The fact that it was unexpected. The person could have done just ignored it. He could have kept the money and didn't do anything, but he went out of his way to make sure that person who was staying in the billeting. So this person was in transition right now, and so they needed,
They needed their information.
Needed their information. They needed their money, and so they were able to keep that life normal. And normalcy was kind of a desired thing you don't have in the military because there was so much change all the time.
Absolutely. Tell me more about your time in the Air Force. I know you were stationed at Barksdale in Louisiana, Shreveport, not too far away.
Yeah.
Where did you go after that? Was there an extended career within?
I
the
did
Air Force?
almost 10 years, but in that time, when I left Shreveport, I went to Zaragoza, and I arrived the day after they closed the base. They literally announced the closure while I was over the Atlantic, and so I was only there for 6 months while we were closing the base.
Okay.
And then they sent me out to Travis Air Force Base in California, and while there, I did a deployment and spent 90 days in Saudi Arabia.
What was that like?
It was pretty intense. You're covering essentially the entire peninsula And for one day, I had to fly out with one of my photographers, and we spent the day on the USS Carl Vinson, which is an aircraft carrier. And by the time we were done, between the two of us, we had had to write 30 stories from there, two of which I had to have done and reviewed by the captain of the ship. And so
It's from superintendent looking at your work to the captain. Wow.
And that was pretty intense, although there was a lot of, because when you're out on their runway,
Yes.
everybody's color coded in what they're doing. It's organized chaos, but it's very exciting. I was doing a story on the radar approach control, which is actually just below the surface of where the airplane lands, which I did not know exactly what that meant,
Right.
just below. So they had me sit, you sit right here. Well, I was then sitting in the position where I could not see any of the cameras where they were looking and watching the aircraft coming in. And so right at the time, boom, that's where it hit, was right above me. So yeah, got my biggest scare right there.
Well, that's a way to introduce you to the topic. Did you write about that experience of sitting and understanding?
No, they wanted you to focus more on them.
Right,
And
of
so we
course.
talked about how their role is in the Navy and the importance of all the keeping control of the aircraft, because you can't keep an aircraft carrier is not safe if it's going in a straight line. So it's constantly moving, turning, and so that it's evading any potential enemy. So
That's what I didn't know that.
So learning how all that comes together, and it was an amazing, an exhausting but amazing experience.
Who would be your average reader as a writer in the Air Force? Is it other airmen? Is it other military personnel in general?
You had two audiences you were catering to. You were talking to the military member, and you're about building esprit de corps with them.
Yes.
But you're also writing to the family members and helping them understand what their husbands or wives were doing and why it may take them away, and the importance of their work in doing it and keeping them focused.
Did you ever get, is there a story that ever stuck out to you that stayed with you? Of course, I'm sure that one with the experience of the plane landing ahead of you or aircraft.
Yeah, I had a couple others that were kind of significant. At Barksdale, they had a KC-10 explosion, and one airman died. He was actually in the tail of the aircraft, and so we covered that entire episode. And it wasn't just the airplane going down. It was the fire department that responded, and how did they respond, and how they actually had to go. Somebody was going from Supply and actually was going halfway to Dallas.
Wow.
To get more foam to put out the airplane, while somebody from at Dice was coming from Dallas, and how they made that happen. How you had other pilots had to get in nearby planes, getting in those beside this burning aircraft, getting them out of the way.
Right.
And
That's a wild experience. What year was that?
gosh, it would have been 1990, I believe.
1990. Goodness. So, okay, that's an experience.
Yes. The other big one was when Khobar Towers was attacked in Dhahran. I wasn't in Dhahran. I was actually at Travis Air Force Base. And so when those folks came back, interviewing them about their experience of going through in that bombing.
Yes.
So that was...
Is there any interviews or people that you've met during your work that have stayed in contact with you?
From the Air Force side of the house, no.
Okay.
In one instance where once you move up to the editor, sometimes you don't get to do all the fun stories.
Right.
So one of the people who was working for me, when John Glenn came in, was to the base, so she got to go out and do the story covering and everything.
Yeah.
And when the photographer got a picture of her with John Glenn, we sent it off to his office so he could autograph for it later.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
So it's one of her memories and stuff.
Now, once your years with the Air Force wrapped up, where were you in your life at that point?
I was just becoming a single dad,
Okay.
and so the Air Force is one of the things to enjoy it, you have to be all in.
Yes.
And so I couldn't do that as a single dad. So I had the lure civilian journalism there, so I went to work for a local newspaper in Northern California, little town of Fairfield. And It started out on the copy desk, eventually ended up being the business writer there.
Business writer. Okay, so walk me through the experience from being an Air Force journalist to working at a small town newspaper.
Well, I would joke with reporters then that when I was in the Air Force, we had an objective and we reported it. And now the idea was we were supposed to be objective reporters.
This is a big flip on its head.
Flip. But in a lot of ways, it's not that much different. Unlike some of the other beats like the court and the city hall, where everything is very much the public
Yes.
and the people have the right to know. A lot of times with businesses, it's private. And they legitimately say it's none of your business, and trying to balance that with how much what the public needed to know. And
For those who may not be aware or just aware, what constitutes or what makes up a business story? Is it like businesses coming to town, businesses leaving? How does that work?
businesses coming to town, things that affect employment,
Okay.
and then affects well, obviously jobs, affects your quality of life, because that brings in community resources. Without business you don't have parks.
Right.
And sometimes it's about from the business perspective, and sometimes it's from the employee perspective. Back when welfare to work was the new thing, that I did a story for Labor Day about a mother and a daughter who had not been in the labor market, and they were now part of the labor market. The irony, which only you enjoy about the middle of the interview, you find out how ironic it is. This would be the first time that they had a job, and on Labor Day, which honors those people with jobs, they had to work. They didn't get the holiday off. They had to work on Labor Day for the first time.
Oh wow. Goodness. Goodness. Okay. So yeah, you've kind of gone through it. So walk me through what that experience was like, a big shift in your work life, but also your home life as well. You mentioned that you were becoming a single dad. Did that take a toll on your writing or you as a professional?
No.
Because like you said, military, you put all in or you're not in.
Right. It was different. The kids were a little bit older, so they were able to kind of understand what's going on. And being a single dad, everything's tended to work out. Although I have to admit, there are elements of life that happen in there that become fodder for later in life in the books.
Yes.
So that's good in that regard.
Using those information.
Missions, yeah.
Yes, that you know. I love that you're bringing up where we're going next, and that's your time as an author. Because what I was told, even as a kid learning to write and trying to write and hone my skills, is that you write about what you know. Is that something that you found?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You bring what you know into what you write.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to be a killer or any of those kinds of things, but I know about what it's like to be a person where things that and that they're affected by it. And so that's kind of how my stories start. I start with some people they map out their stories and everything and write
Right.
to the outline. I kind of actually do it more like Stephen King does, where he says, "Here's my premise.
Yeah.
And what would naturally happen next? What would I do? What would the character do? Is it real? Is it believable?"
Yes. Okay, for those, because I know we kind of jumped ahead quite a bit, you went from, of course, journalism, newspaper, Air Force, to writing books here in East Texas. Help me build the bridge. How did we get here?
There was another big gap in there. That's when I went to the dark side, where I could get a larger salary, because journalism wasn't my best paying job I could have out there.
It's very time consuming.
consuming.
It's life consuming. But yes.
Yes, so I went to marketing, then went into the public affairs. Eventually, ended up being the county public information officer.
Wow.
And so I did it and so you represent the county and all the different things that county services do in California, and somehow in that transition of activities, having been a business reporter, doing marketing, I ended up running the county fair,
Okay.
which was going through a major redevelopment there, in considering it was on prime real estate in the northern Bay Area.
Oh wow.
So
So, okay, you went from reporting to running certain situations.
Situations, right.
Wow. Okay. So, How'd you get here to East Texas?
Quite honestly, it's because my daughter followed a boy this direction. And then my son, who's in the Air Force, I mean, in the Army, when he got out, and his family was in Mississippi, and she's in Texas, and so we're kind of someplace that was somewhere in between. And
I gotcha. You wanted to be close to your kids.
close to my kids, close to my grandkids.
I want to know about your daughter chasing this boy or following this boy. How did that come to be? Was he in the military? What drew him to Texas?
His family was from there, from
Okay.
here. You know, she followed, didn't turn out to be a good relationship, but she has a very independent streak, and she wasn't going to come home saying I failed, and she's been very successful on her own.
Well, good to hear that.
Yeah.
'Cause even if, relationships come and go, that independence is one that you teach.
Yes.
It's something that you have in you. When you came out here to be closer to your kiddos, what drew you in about East Texas?
We were retiring. We had both, my wife and I had the opportunity to retire early, so we were looking for a place where it made sense to retire, and we built a house that enabled us to retire in place. And we found a community that, if the kids moved on and was successful, that we would want to be in, and we would be okay staying there. So where I live, we live in cages, and the animals roam free in this particular development.
I love that.
Yeah, the zebra and the pure David and all these exotic deer, they roam free in our development, and we live in the cages of houses.
Where is this?
Safari Waters Ranch, it's just outside Athens.
Get out.
Yeah.
That's an option?
Yes.
That is so cool. Walk me through on your normal morning and you're waking up, you're having coffee. When you look out the window, are you seeing a zebra walk by?
I've seen a zebra. I've looked out my bedroom window, rolled over, looked out the window, and a deer's looking in at me.
Like, what are you doing here?
Yes. And I'm basically thinking at this point they're saying, so this is what they look like in their natural habitat.
Oh my gosh. Instead of, the hunter the other way around.
Yeah. So for me, a traffic jam is being stuck behind a herd of zebra that are they're owning the road and they're not going anywhere.
Oh my goodness. And this is outside of Athens?
Yes, it is.
This is right here. Okay. Well, now I'm doing my own research later. Why have you always loved animals? Is that what drew you in, or was it just like the idea of living in?
Just the idea of living there, and it's very woodland, and so we just built our little castle in the woods, Chateau de la Rue.
Oh, I love it. Going back to your stories, you mentioned retirement and moving this direction. What sparked okay, well, let's write a book?
It's always been kind of the ambition. But now that I was retired, I could afford to be a starving artist. And
Yes.
So I just sat down and decided that I was going to do it. And I just kind of looked around and said, what something to inspire me.
Yes.
And my granddaughter, who was 8 at the time, had drawn one of her pictures for G-pop. And, like all kids at that age, it kind of looked like SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah,
kind
very
of thing,
stick
and
figure-y-like.
everything. And it looked like he had a bag over his head, which in a lot of ways kind of reminded me of when I was stationed at Barksdale, of the Saints, because the fans then would have a bag over their head when they would go to the games. They were the Saints.
Yes.
And so it made me start thinking about being invisible, on all the different ways in which you can be visible, whether, you go into the bathroom and the lights go out while you're still in there, or my wife who's small, the automatic door opener can't find her.
I'm 5 feet tall, and I know exactly how she feels. And you have to do this? Yes. Goodness.
To how in a relationship you can feel invisible. And so I started going down that path, and eventually decided to look at what I started Googling. And I ran across this human spontaneous involuntary invisibility, where due to emotional stress, you can become invisible.
To the people around you?
To the people around them. And there's some people in the paranormal world that have a lot of belief in this. And it just seemed like it would be an interesting defense for a criminal case.
Yeah.
And being my story was going to be set in San Francisco, the home of the Twinkie defense, it didn't seem like it would be an unnatural thing to happen, have this bizarre kind of defense.
Okay. I want to go back to, you brought up the paranormal side.
Yes.
Because that kind of threw me off a little bit. How does that kind of pertain into that world?
There's different ways in which some people can say you can become invisible. Some talk
Like,
about visible. Some of it is you're in control, and it's
So more of a, like, psychic.
psychic kind of
Okay.
thing, all that.
Okay, because I was thinking ghosts.
But my story doesn't go down all those rabbit holes. I stepped with the more emotional thing, that you can just have an extreme emotional traumatic event, and that somehow that makes you invisible. I don't understand the mechanisms, but
that was the-
there was an impetus of that idea.
And that was your first book?
That's the first book,
What's the name
Invisible
of it?
Defense.
Invisible Defense. Now, how did that get responded, or how did you work with a publisher? Did you self-publish?
I self-published on that.
Okay.
And having been an editor in a variety of different roles, I was okay to do it. But I had some good friends.
Yeah.
I have one of my friends is an English professor at Dallas Baptist University, so that kind of helps to have somebody to look over your shoulder in that regard.
And someone who's willing to look at your
still-
work, yes, because
Yeah.
it takes a good friend to read
Right,
many
many
chapters. So
And I had a friend who was a lawyer and said, "Okay, is this legally possible?
yes,
How do you actually introduce a bizarre defense?" And because it has to be plausible, you can't just introduce anything. And I figured out a way in which you can actually introduce that in the court, and it would have worked. Now, not necessarily I'm going to say that the jury would have bought it,
right.
but it would be a way of introducing it.
Is that the same kind of stance you take on the other books that you've written, where you want to make it feel as realistic as possible?
Oh, absolutely. Because, they're suspense thrillers, and it's not scary if it's, or at least for me, it's not as scary if it's that somebody over there kind of thing.
Yes.
It wants to, the more it can be me, it could have happened to me.
Yes.
Could a demon from my past come back and create havoc in my life today? Oh, absolutely. Almost everybody's got that demon that could come back in their life.
Right.
In Expunged, it's a sign of a spin-off on the MK Ultra experiments of mind control. Well, the CIA's already admitted that they into that project. Now,
Yes.
the Congress did close them down, and my story talks about how it was more of a rogue project that came out beyond that. It's not an expose, I'm not saying that it is, but it is with an agency that did lie. So
It's
we'll leave that
rooted in, yes.
So I'll leave it up to your imagination.
And that has spawned so many different kind of stories and people taking it and using it as their own. I mean, I think most clearly a lot of people think of, Stranger Things, with that being a kind of tie back, or a little bit of, to that world. But I also think of Stephen King. I know you brought him up earlier. There's this book he wrote called The Institute. I believe it's The Institute. I could be wrong, but it also kind of ventures into that direction. Is there a certain author that you feel very inspired by? I know you mentioned Stephen King earlier.
Yeah, for some of the writing styles, and in some ways, I'm kind of like James Patterson, because the chapters are short.
Yes.
They're quick, so which makes it a great airport read.
Yes, a good quick read.
And so you can put it down, but of course, most of the chapters end with a level of a cliffhanger, and you don't want to.
Right.
Harbin, Harold Harbin. All of a sudden, doing a brain fart on him, and he has a lot of bizarre plot lines.
Okay.
And we're seeing him a lot on Netflix miniseries and things like that. Yet at the same time, it's All the King's Men with Robert Penn Warren, where the story within a story
Yes.
kind of character. So there's a lot of different blends and everything that come into play.
Okay. What has been your favorite story to write? Whether it's you got lost in the research, or you really enjoyed reaching out to the experts that kind of helped weigh in. What has been your favorite or your most adventure in writing?
Of the two books that I've completed,
Yes.
I don't know. It's kind of tough to call because they're two separate things. Because the first book was really, could I do it? Could I write that book?
Yeah.
And the second book was it a fluke? And in, obviously the first book, everything's brand new, so you can make up everything. The second book, you couldn't. because these people already had lives. So now I had to write it, and I felt more like I was reporting on their lives. And so there's a third book in the wings for that, and so that's going to be even more constrained because there's so much more of their lives that's already been exposed. But the other book that I'm working on now, it's Home on My Own, and it's it kind of goes. It's a second war. It's after a second civil war here in the United States.
Okay.
But instead of two sides within the country, imagine the hundreds of factions that we have going on today.
Yeah.
They all take up arms.
The factions.
The factions, they take up arms against each other. And state and federal governments all give up and say the only way to have peace is that we relegate everybody to their own corner. And we break up into 100 city-states and hundreds of reservations. And you are sent to your island, your ideological island, and there's separations. But if you didn't pick a side in the war,
Yeah.
you don't have a home, because only those who had a side get the spoils of the war. And so they're more these vagabonds. So they can travel between cities, but they don't have a home. And so the story's about how does one of these vagabond entrepreneurs gets a home.
That is fascinating. Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
now you have to create an entire world,
Right. That doesn't
that
exist.
exists.
Okay.
which sounds like, wow, it's great. No, how do you make it real?
Yes.
What kind of government would you have?
What kind
Would
of
you have
resources?
electricity?
Yes.
Who has water? Who has power?
Who has food? What part of the country are you in that
And
economically
it
impacts you?
And how do you have your resources? Do we have cars?
Do you have trade?
Yes, all of those elements, and kind of figuring that out.
Has that been fun?
Yes, it's been daunting, but it's been fun.
I'm sure. Currency, I mean, all these little things that you can kind of run with. Do you enjoy more having that freedom to kind of create and world build, or is it not necessarily easier, or do you enjoy more about, finding a situation and then building off that?
It's a little bit of both because there is an intense amount of research that you have to do,
Yes.
for one sentence. Because for it to be realistic, if as you talked about commerce and everything, so one character has a forge and is making nails because you don't have necessarily have a hardware store with somebody of the truck coming in to bring it in there.
Right, because they're trying to feed their own family.
Right. Well, how does a forge work? What would you take? Could somebody on limited resources make a forge? You can. I couldn't imagine learning how to do writing like this before the internet, and
Yeah.
or
Going to the
I mean,
library
you go to
and-
the library, but sometimes, if you don't know what the question is to ask, it's difficult at the library. So
Right.
a little bit of the AI help on asking questions.
Maybe going to the Renaissance Fair. Yeah.
Yes. So that part's kind of fun. And at the same time, I'm working on a different project that the idea worked backwards to where I'm writing 6 children's books.
Okay.
And these children's books, one of the unique factors of it is there are hidden messages in the artwork. And that's because the story is, in the adult book, was that's how this person is communicating messages to his audience outside of, he's in prison, and he's communicating this message to that person outside.
Through the book.
Through the books, and using them as a clandestine means of communication.
Oh, wow.
So what could you do? What's literally the art of the possible? What could you hide in there that nobody would see it, and equally important, that your opposition party embraces your story and actually is promoting your stories to get their message out, but they don't realize they're actually getting somebody else's message out.
That's awesome. So these 6 children's books tie into your other work. Is it tough kind of splitting your attention to different projects?
Yes. And so I've kind of prioritized, I mean, sometimes you have an idea moment that you take care of that idea and you get that going.
Yes.
Then you get back to it. So the Home on My Own is my priority project that I'm working on, about a third of the way through that.
Is there a release date in the focus? What are we looking at? And are you self-publishing
Yeah,
still?
it's still self-publishing, although interestingly enough, I've got some conversations with literary agents this week, so that's going
Hey,
to be good.
well, I'm wishing you the best of luck there.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
So the advantage of that is I'm on my own timeline, and so
Okay.
I'm not obligated to anything. And so, and I've discovered I'm a slow writer.
And sometimes it's better because that's more thought, more focus, more attention.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I edit, and when you're in that like a pivotal area in a book where you need that particular scene that transitions the character, moves the story along, 100 words can be really grueling effort to get that to set the momentum for the entire chapter.
Right.
And it may take 2 or 3 days to get there, and then it gets really fast again, and then you're back down to the next
That momentum building.
Yes.
Has your wife helped you, or have you turned to her and like, I'm stuck here, can you help me kind of a moment? Or does she more, no, that's your thing?
No, she's been a sounding board, although sometimes because I'm talking through the story that she hasn't read yet, and
She doesn't know context.
it's the context, characters, in it's starting to build with the Clark Solo series that there are different characters that are like other family members, so she can recognize those when I kind of talk to her about it. But her primary role is she is one of my beta readers. She goes through and reads, and then she was a teacher. She taught 4th grade for a long time, and then 2nd grade. So she's clarity and all those kinds of important things that you want to have in there. Although there are she did insert the wife thing on this, like, you can't end that book that way, because the second book did not, the way I originally wrote it, did not end that way.
And we're not talking about Invisible Defense
No,
with
it's-
Clark Solo.
No, yes, it's expunged. It's the second book of the Clark Solo.
Okay.
And that book did not end the way I initially wrote it. She said, no, you
No,
can't
no.
do that. You can't do that to that character. I'll be mad at you. I won't let you do that.
I'm not going to ask you about spoilers because this is a series I want to read, especially when you brought up MK Ultra. I don't know if you saw the glitter in my eyes sparkled because I'm like, okay, now we're in my zone. Okay, so with all 3 of these, is Clark an appearance in the 3rd book?
No.
Okay.
Home Alone is a diversion. Can I do something different? There is a 3rd book in there that I'm working on. It's kind of being worked on. It's at this time the working title is Enemy Minds,
Okay.
and these are all building upon each other.
Okay.
Now, technically, you could read Expunge without reading Invisible Defense.
But you'll still know who
You-
Clark
you-
is.
You'll
and
know who
get
it is. There's some tiebacks and everything in there. If you go backwards, it's a little bit of spoiler alert, not so much, but it is best to read it through. I'm not sure that you can't read the Enemy Minds without reading Expunge, because it's so critical to build it up. Because when you get to the end of the book, there are some very clear unanswered questions that just like, but it was time to be done with that story.
Is it good to kind of end a series with a closure? Is that important to you? Is that why you're wanting to do the 3rd one with Clark?
I don't know if it's good. I mean, in some ways, I guess it's good from the reader. I guess it's for me. I want to know how the story how could it end?
Yeah.
Because because it will delve into mind control, but not the way
That you think.
you would think.
Okay.
And like the other stories where it comes from something very organic, natural that you have in your hand, most people have in their hand quite often. It's a new kind of scary.
Okay, cool. This is fun. So, okay, you've got things happening. Do you want to tell us about what the conversations are this week with the literary agents, or is it just like, conversations?
It's
or
just
meetings?
conversations. They've reached out and said that, I've seen some of your work. It looks interesting. We want
Yeah.
to know more. So. Unfortunately, there are a lot of scams in the literary world. So, I'm not getting my hopes up too high.
Have you had conversations where they turned out to be scams?
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
Or
You've
you
d-
have to pay in?
Yeah, there's a lot of marketing scams where
Oh.
they go, we can market your book, and it's like, yeah, but so could anybody in the world can do exactly.
You
what
can
do.
market your book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I did go out with one marketing firm that's helping me do audiobooks. So,
Oh.
So that's hopefully to be coming out here. The first book, Invisible Defense, should be coming out here in the fall, and Expunge should be done by Christmas. So both of them be ready for your Christmas buying season.
Oh, that's exciting, especially for folks who enjoy these kind of stories, these kind of thrills, and not so much as traditional spooky, scary horror, but those who enjoy that build-up, enjoy that crime mixed with unusual situations. What do you think is your core reader?
That's been hard for me to answer that question.
Because everyone is so multifaceted.
It's
in what they
multifaceted,
like.
yeah, because I mean, my books have a lot of characters, and there's a lot of complex situations. In fact, my mother-in-law, when she read the book the first time, and she's in her 80s, she didn't like it. She was confused. There were too many characters. She couldn't keep track of it.
Yeah.
And later, she saw it and got the ebook version, she read it then, and she thought it was the greatest book ever.
Same book.
Same book. You know, I had to explain, Mom, it's the same book. Oh, I thought it sounded familiar. So, but it does. It is. A lot of people say there's a lot of characters to keep track of, and but it's real life. You know, you don't have only 3 people in your life. You know,
Right.
There's a lot of characters that happen, and when you have 2 competing storylines that keep weaving in and out, and each one pulls in pieces of their past, and that collides with their present. There's a lot of people going on.
Where are your books downloadable or purchasable? Are they in stores? Are they online?
They're online. You can get them at Amazon. You can get them at Barnes and Noble.
Okay. Now, if you had advice to someone who, say they've always wanted to write a book, never maybe got the courage or, put the mind into, character development, where do you think they should start?
You should. When I do a book signing, there's always somebody that comes up and asks that question. And the answer is just right. Writing is not about being good. Editing is where it gets good. And so you get your idea, get your story out. The only thing you have to do is figure out where do you want your story, how do you want your story to be told? Are you going to be doing, Once Upon a Time and start from the beginning? Or you're going to start at the end and work backwards, or you start in the middle and you fill in the characters. Kind of figuring that kind of flavor of how you want it to show up on as the movie,
Right. Because, yes.
That kind of determines how you want to tell the story, and then how that then tells you the scenarios of which scenes to come first, which comes next, when do you introduce which characters, and how do you develop the character? Are they going to be a slow build in developing this character, or are there going to be misleads on a character because they are going to be something else later, and you don't want to give away too much too early.
Right. Do you have a favorite trope?
No, not really.
You don't maybe the unreliable narrator or the enemies to lovers? That's one of my favorite.
No, I mean, the Clark solos are both kind of told in the third person. A Home of My Own, I'm not sure yet who that person is.
Okay.
It's not a first person, but it's definitely a person that has firsthand knowledge of the story.
Okay.
It's not just like this ambivalent narrator of the story.
Right.
This one's part of the story.
So it's someone's perspective.
Yeah, and he has a voice. It's clearly a Southern story. And when I'm reading it aloud, as my way of editing, I read it aloud. I have to read it with a Southern accent because it is that character, and to get the flow of that music, because it's set in Southern Missouri,
Oh,
in
wow.
the town of Martyr.
Okay. I was going to ask you if you've pulled any flavor from East Texas into these stories.
Not yet.
Okay. Is that something that's on the agenda, or is it just of what comes naturally to you?
What comes natural to kind of the story? Where
Okay.
could it happen?
Yes.
I chose that particular corner of Missouri because of walking distance between 2 major cities. between St. Louis and Memphis.
So going back to that realistic,
Realistic,
can this
it's
be
been
possible?
possible.
Because, when you think of, automatically when I think of like walking, I think of The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And I think of like, how are they getting around and getting to these various places so quickly when they do not have vehicles? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, sometimes they have a motorcycle. But is it realistic to walk that far?
Far,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even in The Long Walk with Stephen King, is that distance that they're traveling, is that even realistic?
Yeah, and I actually kind of went through that in Expunge. You have Joy Muldoon, who's a teen runaway who's come back home.
Yeah.
And he's getting off the BART, and he's traveling toward home, and he has a duffel bag that he needs to hide. And he puts it into a locker. Well,
How big is that duffel bag?
how big is a duffel bag? You have to know that in San Francisco, there are storage unit places that are for small things like duffel bags that you kind of would think you would have at an airport.
Yeah.
But those are out community things, and that there happens to be one where I locate his family that you could go. It's going to be in that path of travel.
Get out.
Yeah. So those are those little things that
That
takes
attention.
a lot of stuff.
Wow, that attention to detail. That's fun. That's
Yes.
fun to kind of look back, and if you're like in the zone of reading and you just so happen to be in the area, you look up and there it is. Is that the idea you want to put in for your
Right?
readers?
Yes. To be able to do it. I mean, obviously, if you lived in San Francisco and you're reading this, you should feel like, okay.
He's been here before.
He's been here. Yeah, he's been taking a few licenses here and there because
Not everything's going to be
it's
perfect. Yeah.
perfect, but you know it.
Yeah.
You know the place. You know that if you're looking out the window from your apartment on Russian Hill, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge from there. If you say that and that's not true,
Right.
you lose credibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
so
like
that's-
that. I think that's awesome. Do you think a lot of authors play to that feeling of making it feel as real as possible? Or do you think maybe they don't? What is your critique on that?
I would say the good authors do.
Yes.
Those that take the time to do it. Others, reality is not every book out there is the best thing that should ever be read.
Yes. Not everything should be published.
But yes, one of my favorites, is All the King's Men.
Yes.
Yes, I get the feeling of Willie Stark riding around in that car in the backwoods of Louisiana. I get it. And then later to have been there, I got a sense of it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, a different time frame, so it wasn't all the same, but you kind of got the feel. And what wasn't there, I could imagine and insert myself into that storyline. And that's kind of what I like is that my stories don't have the detail that is filling in too many blanks. I mean, Tom Clancy's a very detailed-oriented writer, and it's great. And giving it's an environment that is generally unfamiliar with people, you kind of need to. Mine is more enough detail that I can spark your imagination because I know that the reality is you can scare yourself more than I can.
Yeah.
And by just letting you pull in on your own experiences and let them kind of fill in the gaps, it's much more frightening.
We have talked for so long, and I apologize for holding you hostage from the rest of your life, but I want to say thank you for coming in and letting me get to pick your brain. I hate that I haven't even got a chance to crack open one of your books because I am so excited to do that now. Any last word you want to leave us on?
It's the kind of the weirdest thing about it is that they never tell you about the business side of becoming an author. Mm-hmm. And so in addition to being, the writer, I've designed some T-shirts that go along with this, with the products. So I have one. It's a T-shirt and it says "Human Spontaneous Invisible Spontaneous Victim," and it says "It wasn't me" on there. So those kind of things that kind of remind you where you can be part of the story too.
I love that. Merch is always so important.
That's right.
I love merch. Okay, well, thank you again, and I'm excited for the next story. Please come on and tell us more once we get a release date, and I would love to hear more.
Okay, that'd be great.